No, God, right? Oh, I'm good. Last night was me. But I feel bad. I'm like, oh crap. Like, no, he's going to sign it.
sure your computers and phones are silent. Okay. I forgot.
Did you hear him? Make sure your computers and your phones are silent.
Yeah, mine's on silent. I don't know if my computer really makes any noise. But
We've all set up for public comment, which how you want it, anything?
I'm sorry?
We all set. for
yeah, so
public
I'll
comment.
put this on if I have to sneeze. But I don't think I will. It's just been like a little bit of pollen, but now that it's getting colder at night, I think it's better.
Well, yeah, when it started to get cool, I started sleeping with my window open to the
Isn't it
room.
nice?
It is nice. You know? And I'm like, I can sleep with it closed, and I'm like, that's just...
Brought the room down. That was nice. Just wait for Simon. All right, good evening. We'll call the meeting to order. Thank you, everyone. That was nice and orderly and a minute early. I appreciate that. Before we proceed with our agenda, let me just address a couple of housekeeping items since we're in a new venue tonight. I would like to clarify the mask policy at tonight's meeting because I did receive several questions about it over the weekend. The Oakland County Health Department's emergency health order does not apply to public meetings. Choosing to wear a mask tonight is an individual decision. I moved the board meeting to this larger venue to allow for additional spacing to ensure everyone's comfort. Meeting agendas and sign-up sheets for public comment are located on tables at the entrances to this room. This is also where a copy of the bylaw related to public comment is posted. If you wish to address the board on an agenda item, please be sure to sign up before we get to item 3 because the sign-up sheets will be collected at that time. You will still be able to sign up throughout the meeting to address the board on any topic at item 9. Additional sign-up sheets will be available at those same tables throughout the meeting. Speakers will be limited to those who follow the correct procedure, so please fill out the sign-up sheet as directed. And with that, we'll begin the meeting with the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Mrs. McLean, may I have a roll call, please?
Mrs. Egan?
Here.
Mrs. Crane?
Here.
Mrs. McGinnis?
Here.
Ms. Catalina?
Here.
Mr. Heyer?
Here.
Mr. Need? Mrs. Horst?
Here. Vice President Need sends his apologies. He had an unavoidable work conflict tonight and is unable to be here. This meeting is a meeting of the Board of Education in public for the purpose of conducting the school district's business and is not to be considered a public community hearing. There is time for public participation during the meeting as indicated in agenda items 3 and 9. Item 2 is approval of the consent agenda. May I have a motion, please?
I move that the Board of Education approves the consent agenda as presented. Support.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion carries. Item 3 is citizens' requests to address the board. You are given 2 opportunities to address the board. Under item 3.1, you can request to address the board about any topic that is on tonight's agenda. Or under item 9, you are welcome to address the board on any topic. When making comments, please state your name and address and direct your comments to Mrs. Kelly Horst, President. Each person may speak for up to 2 minutes. Per established procedures, the board will not respond to questions or interact with the speaker during public comment. And I believe I have 2 assistants who are going to go retrieve sign-in sheets for me. I can't see into the booth, so I don't remember who was going to do that for me. So while that is happening, let me just say that I want to reiterate that calling out individuals in this forum is inappropriate and personal attacks will not be tolerated. Anyone who engages in criticism of and/or a personal attack on an individual, whether by name or any other identification, will be stopped and prevented from doing so. Please keep your remarks and your attention directed up here to the board. We have 2 microphones in the audience tonight for public comment. One is located here at the front of the house. They call this house right, I'm told, and one is at the front of the mezzanine. I don't know if you can see it right here at the top of the stairs. They call that house left. So whatever microphone you prefer to use is closest to you is fine when I call your name. Oh, sorry, so we need to pause for a moment while Mrs. McLean goes and retrieves those sheets. I just need to see if anyone has signed up to speak during the agenda, so I know to stop and pause when we get to that agenda item. And please remember that if you wish to wait until item 9, you can step out certainly and sign up on those sheets at any time during the meeting up to the point we get to item 9. So there are still additional sheets out on those tables. Thank you, Mrs. McLean. Okay, so I only have 1 citizen who is actually asked to speak on an agenda item. Mrs. Hempton, when we get to the strategic plan, I will call you up, whichever microphone you prefer. And so far, everyone else that's on this list falls under item 9. So now we will move on to item 4, Superintendent Update. Dr. Ryan.
Thank you, President Horst. Good evening. Welcome, everyone, to the high school this fine night. As your superintendent of schools, I'm proud and honored to report, as we're starting into our 2nd week of school, that after touring our hallways, our classrooms, and across the great buildings of this district, now thinking that we're in our 3rd year of dealing with a global pandemic and the effects that have still, as we see, affecting our operations and the way that we want to conduct school. I'm excited and proud to report, though, that compared over the last 3 years, right now, we're functioning at the highest level that we have since almost the beginning of the pandemic. As I go through elementary and kindergarten, 1st, 2nd, 3rd grade classrooms, routines are intact, students are learning, students are engaging, students are smiling and really putting away in school that they haven't had an opportunity over the last 2 years. And that carries all the way up through our high school. This is one of the best starts, given everybody in this room should be able to grasp their personal struggles that they've had, but in school, to the credit of our staff, to the credit of our students, and to the credit of our families, we're off and running to a wonderful start of school. And although over the last week and a half, we've had recorded upwards of 25 positive cases of COVID in our schools, operationally, we're still very strong, and that we are working with the health department to do contact tracing. This year it's different. Our community should know and continue to hear from our school and from me that in previous year that we had nurses from the Oakland County Health Division that were actually embedded in our school district. This year they're doing it separated, where we report to the health department positive cases, and then health department personnel inform families, and it's a direct contact with them and under advisement of their family doctor. So a little bit of a different protocol this year, but so far it's working fairly well in terms of our total number of students that are being quarantined with respect to also coming up COVID positive. We're going to continue to press through And I'm excited to see what this school year is going to be able to produce because I see the resilience in our students and our staff, and I see the resilience in our families. And I know this is going to be a year that no one can predict exactly from start to finish how it's going to unfold, but I feel a strong sense of high morale and readiness along with our students, with our staff, to take any challenge in front of them. And to that, I'm really appreciative. The spirit de corps with our Clarkson Community Schools that transcends from our Board of Education all the way to every last parapro custodian and everyone attached to our organization has been extremely strong and extremely focused on kids. So I want to report that as a whole, that we're off, and I will hopefully be able to continue to provide reports throughout this year of the status. And this evening, we're also going to give a little more expansive explanation and a presentation on the state of technology. Obviously, over the last 2 years, it's gone leaps and bounds in terms of our ability to use technology in many different formats that we haven't before. And also with an update this evening on our strategic plan, which we're, even every other challenge aside, we're still advancing on. And we want to make sure that our community understands the elements that we're working on, that we're focusing on, and elements that we're expecting to accomplish and gain ground through this year. So lastly, kind of on a positive note, athletics is in full swing in Clarkston. If you've been able to get out, drive by one of our fields or venues, you know that this Friday, hopefully, make sure I have the exact time, we're having the 3rd annual Community Ed Family Tailgate at this facility, 5 p.m., prior to the varsity football game. So again, I appreciate everybody in their attendance this evening and look forward to a strong meeting tonight. Thank you, President Horst.
Thank you so much, Dr. Ryan. We'll move on to our presentation items. We have 2 tonight. Item 5.1 is a technology update, and we will bring up Angela Harrison and Lori Banaszak. And they're going to be over here, and our audience members should be able to see the presentation on the screen above us.
Good evening. Lori couldn't make it tonight. Can you hear me?
Not well.
Mrs. Seaman, can we make sure that this microphone over here is on?
Hello?
Thank you.
There we go.
Thank you very much.
Okay, Lori couldn't make it tonight, so I'm going to do this solo. We really wanted to come to you tonight to talk about technology. Since the passing of the bond in 2016, we have implemented a lot of technology, and so we just want to come and give you an update on that. So for as long as I can remember, we have talked about transparent technology, that we want our technology to be transparent to the classroom, to be a teaching tool so that teachers just move about their day and they use technology and they put it away and everything just kind of works together and they don't really have to think about it. You know, they don't have to think about if it's working or not working, that everything just kind of gels together. And thanks to the bond and the technology that we've implemented, we are able to make technology transparent to our teachers. In order to make technology transparent, there's a lot of work that now has to go in on the back end. So we have installed a lot of systems to make technology transparent so that teachers don't have to worry about it in the classroom. But what that means for us is that we have to work on these systems on the back end. We have to update students. We do rostering. We do different things so that when a teacher is teaching typing club or WeVideo or different things that they're teaching, the students' names are already there and they just move on. And so we do that on the back end. We have over 50 systems now that range from mission critical to just basic applications that the technology department supports in the mission of operations of the district and teaching and learning. So this next little slide here really kind of shows you that a lot of the things that we do, the infrastructure, from our switches to our wireless, to our back-end systems, the back-end applications that run our district, teaching and learning, All of these are kind of behind the scenes to what happens in the classroom. So these systems take a lot of support. We have a technology department that is myself, a network technician, a computer technician, and a help desk technician that really kind of support the infrastructure, the technical aspects of these systems, and different things like that. And then we have instructional technology that supports teachers in the classroom, and how do we use all of this technology that we purchased. I don't know, sometimes you hear about these districts that have purchased a lot of technology, and after 4 or 5 years, somebody comes along and they find it all in boxes because nobody really knew how to implement it and nobody knew how to use it. And Clarkson has implemented instructional technologists, along with Lori Banaszak, who is the administrator of instructional technology, to help teachers in the classroom with their technology. They help them brainstorm how to implement their technology. They help them, sorry, I need to move this here. They help them brainstorm how to implement their technology, and they do the ed tech. And so as we have moved along, for teachers to stop asking, what's wrong with my technology? How do I fix this? How do I fix that? They've started asking, hey, how do I do this? How do I do different things with technology? And our group of instructional technologists are always there to help them. So this model that we're using is forward-thinking and necessary if we truly want to integrate technology into curriculum. So some examples of the things that our IT support. Our Synergy Student Information System. Our IT support our teachers in helping them use their grade book, create their learning feedback documents, all of the different things that go on in Synergy. So there was an update to Synergy just this year that made the grade book look different. And so how do our teachers start to use this grade book and use it in a different way, and while everything looks different, and our instructional technologists are there to help and assist our teachers. So it wasn't that long ago that we used to have teachers, technology savvy teachers on their planning time. They would help teachers with Synergy and Gradebook and things like that, but they could only help them on their planning time. They could only help them when they had time to do it. But with the instructional technologists, they are able to help our teachers use the technology that we have purchased. Another example is when we purchased GoGuardian for filtering and for our students when we went to the one-to-one. So GoGuardian has a feature in it called GoGuardian Teacher. And GoGuardian Teacher, when our students were away and at home, gave our teachers the ability to see the screens of all of the students that they were teaching, even though they were all in different locations and areas. And so the GoGuardian Teacher, we had kind of talked about it behind the scenes, and we were like, okay, we're going virtual. Everything is kind of crazy. We're not really sure what's happening. This is just something that we don't want to put on the teachers' plates. We don't want to add something extra to them in addition to getting these virtual classrooms up and running. But the instructional technologists started getting some questions about it. And so they would come to me and they would say, hey, can we give this teacher GoGuardian Teacher, and can we kind of start to do this, and we'll test it out and we'll create some instructions and we'll do some things. And I said, sure, so we started kind of rolling it out by word of mouth. And our teachers now are saying that use it, say it's a game changer for them. And so without the instructional technologists, we would not have been able to get off the ground with that as fast as we were able to do that. When the district shut down due to COVID, the ITs brainstormed solutions for virtual classrooms, accessing Windows content from Chromebooks, supporting Google Meets and Zoom, and getting them up and running in Google Classroom and Seesaw. They help support MSTEP and other testing initiatives. So the ITs push into the classrooms to help students learn how do they take a test on a Chromebook. So the students have to not only know the content of a test, but when you think of your littles and they have a Chromebook in front of them and now they need to read a question over here while they're scrolling something over here, they need to be taught how to use those tools that are within the program of MSTEP, the calculators and the different things like that, and also how to maneuver around through those screens to be able to use it. And our ITs are great at going in and helping those students with that. We also have a fabulous group of media techs. Our media techs, we have one per building, and they're technically half-time technology because they also run the media centers in our buildings. But they're the first level of support for our families, and they're the first level of support for our teaching staff. Our media techs are hard workers, and when we went to one-to-one, our media techs, our ITs, our media specialists, they all stepped up to get these devices in and unboxed and out to students and in their hands and check them in. And so I wanted to give you kind of a visual of the 8,000 devices that we collected over the summer. So if you remember in the spring, everything kind of shut down and we were just in a hurry to get devices out in kids' hands. And so we had asked the community, if you had a device, please use it. If you didn't, come get one. And so we had 2,500 devices that went out to families. And then we made the decision to go one-to-one because it looked like this was not going to end and students needed to be able to learn, and we needed to be able to pivot quickly for teaching and learning. So we now have just over 8,000 devices between iPads and Chromebooks that are student devices for one-to-one. Our media techs and media specialists and ITs collected all of those devices over the summer to wipe them, check them over, make sure that that they were good, make sure that they didn't need fixed anything that needed to be fixed, to prepare those devices for the school year. So 8,000 devices is 48 pallets that holds 166 devices. If you laid these devices end to end, they would stretch out for over 1.5 miles. If you stack these devices into a tower, they would be taller than the Sears Tower to the tip. So the Sears Tower comes in at 1,729 feet, and we have about 2,000 feet of Chromebooks. In addition to preparing the one-to-one devices for the start of the school year, each summer our team of media techs and media specialists and instructional technologists follow the cleaning crews in the buildings to plug in technology and make sure every classroom is set up and ready to go before the teachers come in. We also were able to hire a technology administrative assistant this year because supporting all of the 8,000 devices that we'd use for one-to-one takes a lot of work. And we repaired over 900 devices over the school year with just various problems. That is pretty typical. If you look at any one-to-one implementation in most of the districts around the country, 10% breakage in devices is pretty normal. So we were able to hire this technology administrative assistant. She worked with the company that handled our repairs. She sent devices back. We handed out loaners. We switched out devices. We had about 225 devices that could not be repaired that we had to replace. And we had to replace about 500 chargers over the course of the year. So if you recall, when everything started happening really fast in the spring, and like I said, we wanted to get those devices in student hands, we didn't ask the parents to sign anything. We didn't ask them to sign up for anything, or to, sign up for any kind of insurance or anything like that. This year, we decided, it really made sense for us to create these student handbooks, just so that everybody kind of knows what's expected. We implemented kind of a self-insured insurance, where for $20 a device, you sign up and you get, your first repair or replacement is covered, and then it kind of goes on from there. We looked at a lot of different insurance programs. We felt that a lot of them were really expensive. We felt that a lot of them were really just more than we wanted to ask our parents to have to implement. And so this is what we're doing this year, and we're going to try it out. We're going to see if it works, and hopefully we're going to continue that. So the next thing that I want to talk about is cybersecurity. So last year, Walled Lake Schools was hit with a ransomware attack, and it was ugly. And so I received a copy of an email that they had sent out, and they had said, they were hit by this ransomware attack, and all of their servers were shut down, and they actually had to push back the start of their school because they couldn't access their technology, their building controls. It hit everything from their student information system to everything. And they had mentioned that they had some cybersecurity insurance, and that they had some people that would, come out, lawyers, different things that were covered by this insurance. And I kind of panicked, and I was thinking, wow, I better make sure we have this insurance, right? So I checked, and we did have it through CETSEG, but CETSEG came in and said, hey, you know what, we're paying out a lot of money on these cybersecurity issues with school districts, and it's costing us a lot of money to bring in all of these professionals for these ransomwares, and so we want you to implement some security measures in order to keep your rider and in order to keep your deductibles low. So they had sent out a 9-question questionnaire to talk about, the different security features. When all of this kind of hit, we implemented an air gap backup system. So this air gap backup system takes a copy of our backups and then disconnects itself from the server, so that if a ransomware attack comes in, they can't hit those backups, and we would hopefully be able to recover from that faster. So they want us to implement things like two-factor authentication. They want us to implement phishing testing, where our staff would receive an email that would say, hey, this is Angela Harrison, the administrator of technology. Check out this really cool link that I want to send you. And, if they clicked on the link, then it would take them to another screen that would say, okay, this was a phishing test, and here's why. This said Angela Harrison at hotmail.com, and here are the different things that, show that this was a phishing example. So we have to kind of look into this, and this is another system or systems that we're going to put on the back end that's going to be, in the bottom of that iceberg, that we're going to need to implement and manage in support of security. And so, it is important, the district, it is a business. We're a multi-million-dollar business. We have a lot of staff, and we have a lot of students, and we have a lot of data that needs to be protected. And so the two-factor authentication, we're going to kind of start rolling that out. We're going to roll that out with administrators first, and then we'll start rolling it out to our teachers. We have to do all this. We have about a year to implement it. CETSEG wanted districts to start implementing these things before the next time that we had to re-up our insurance. And so just about every district in Oakland County is looking to implement these security measures. And that's what I have today.
Thank you so much. Trustees, are there any questions or comments for Mrs. Harrison? Mrs. Egan?
I just have a question about the self-insurance that we're using. Have we been effectively covering our costs then with that $20 per device from each family that participates?
So we just started that this year. So as we implemented the one-to-one last year, we had some bond devices that we purchased through the bond, and we purchased a warranty with all of our devices, and we can only buy a 3-year warranty. So we had bond devices, and then we had the new devices that we purchased to help fill in for one-to-one. So we also had some older devices that were kind of coming off warranty. And so last year we filled in really a lot with those. So those 900 devices that needed to be repaired, we used some of those older devices as loaner devices, and then as the new ones came back, we gave them back to the students. And the 225 devices that could not be replaced, the district covered those. We paid for those.
Okay.
So now, moving forward, we're going to start seeing how that goes. So, like I said, you figure about a 10%, break fix rate. What will eventually happen is, as we're purchasing these Chromebooks, we purchase them with the warranty. The warranty is an additional $50 per device. So we're going to continue to purchase our devices with warranty because that helps with our warranty provider to be able to get these devices quickly turned around. Once these devices start coming off of warranty and they are nearing the end of life, we will have to start looking at a company to help us repair these devices. I have looked into several districts. I know Grand Blanc, they do all of their own repair in-house, but they have certified their staff to do that, and they've hired some staff to take care of that, and they have a person that does nothing but order parts and repair Chromebooks. Did that answer your question?
Well, I'm just curious, are we really covering our costs right now?
So right now, we haven't had to send any back.
Okay.
Yet. So we're still in the process of actually handing devices out to students. We started that, I think, this week. I think we started that. I think that we will. I think that the $20 will probably generate about $100,000, maybe a little bit more, and we'll be able to cover our repairs and cover our replacements and cover the charging cords. That's a big one. They get damaged, and they're kids. They get damaged. They get lost, and they're about $30 to $40 a piece.
Mm-hmm.
So that's a big ticket item, and doesn't seem like it should be, but.
Mrs. Egan, I think as we go through this process, there's so many unknowns.
Right.
My theory would be that the longer kids have devices and the more they learn about how to care for them, the less repairs we're going to have. And so, I was new. Obviously, kids aren't used to lugging them back and forth or how to take care of them. And so there's a lot going on. We don't know how many families are going to buy the insurance. I mean, it's brand new this year.
Mm-hmm.
We don't know how many devices are going to need to be replaced. But I know Mrs. Harrison has gone through in detail a comparison of all the other districts and all the options. And we, Dr. Ryan and Mrs. Harrison, has made the best decision for how we can proceed. And I think as a board and as we're allocating resources, it's definitely something that we want to pay attention to, because I know we have a desire to maintain the one-to-one going forward and all the options that afford us. And it is going to be a partnership with our families of how we make that work. And I think that's going to continue to evolve. This is a model where certainly when we buy the warranty, we have to send the device off to get fixed. We have other options to repair devices as well that have different costs to them, probably different reliabilities to them. So I think over the next probably 2 or 3 years, this is going to be an ever-evolving area, which I think is why we needed the administrative assistant in this position, because somebody needs to manage this and manage the data and get to know what the run rates are on these items. And I think we're in great shape now. I'm excited for the school year. All the kids are getting their devices. I think they got them last week, and they're starting to use them in class, and I think it's going to be great for the educational program that we have. And I'm thankful that we can support such a large infrastructure with such limited resources, and that's something that we're going to have to continue to work together on. I mean, I'm so thankful that our collection of different positions and staff members have really worked together to keep a hugely complex system up and running, and not just up and running, but really taking it to the next level of demonstrating and integrating and really putting technology into the curriculum. Whereas, when I don't know if we still have the class because it's been a while since I've had it, but the curriculum needs to drive the technology is sort of technology 101 for school board members. And I think we're definitely at a place where the curriculum is driving the program, and how does the technology improve that? How do we make it better? How do we leverage it? And I think we've done a great job, having been through several bond issues. I would say, we're getting better every time, and we've done much better in this one with technology than we have in previous, because we've had these positions and we've had the outside expertise. So I think we're really solid in terms of our footprint going forward, and it's exciting to see teachers, because I mean we know how hard teachers work, right? I mean, maybe they have a planning hour, maybe they don't, depending on where they're at and what the demands are. How are they supposed to figure out how to use this device that changes every few years and somehow make it do good things for their kids, right? That's just unrealistic of them, when we're also asking them to enter comments on learning feedback documents and spend more time with families and be great at what they do, and constantly learn new techniques. And so I think having somebody to come in and say, hey, why don't you try this? This might work in this case. I think whether it's technology or some of the math and literacy things, I think that's a really good model for us. So that's a long-winded way of saying I don't think it's going to cover the cost right now, but we'll see how it goes based on where we're headed with this. But I think we're really positioned well. I thank Mrs. Harrison for putting all the extra work in, because I asked about 9,000 questions on this topic, and she had great answers for every single one of them.
Any other questions for Mrs. Harrison? So, and trustees, remember, one of our priorities for the year was to help steward the update of our facilities and technology master plan. And so I think, we think of this maybe as step one, is just understanding sort of the explosion of technology and how it's used in our district, both to support learning and just run our operation. As you said, our multi-million-dollar, very complex business that we help oversee. So that was kind of the purpose of getting all this information tonight.
I think the big thing was this is the first year that we're doing this, so we based that $20 based on what we thought our repair costs were last year.
Yes, we based it on a number of factors. We based it on what we believed that our cost was, what we felt was affordable to families, especially, if you look at families that have 4 or 5 kids, just trying to balance all of that for everyone.
Right. Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Right. Thank you very much. Move on to our second presentation of the night. 5.2 is our strategic plan update, and we have Mrs. Mahoney and Mrs. Puzio.
Good evening, President Horst, Dr. Ryan, and our Board of Education. I'm very excited to speak to the strategic plan and share with you what we're focusing on this year. I just wanted to reflect back on the year of 2018-19 is when a large group of us met several times throughout this school year as an incredible think tank in looking at our district and putting this plan together. We developed it, we brought it to the Teaching and Learning Council. This was board approved in the spring of 2019, and we launched in the fall of 2019. And what's beautiful in these pictures is that we see our early childhood representation, we see ESL, we see subject area coordinators, principals, central office administration, and I think since this day of launching this, we've been very proud of the strategic plan. There are two things that truly drive our strategic plan, and I wanted to put that in front of you once again tonight, and that is our mission and our vision statements. And so just to bring to light our mission statement once again is that Clarkston Community Schools creates a learning environment where students, staff, and our families are challenged, healthy, engaged, safe, and supported. And our vision statement clearly states that students are well prepared for a future that excites them and believe that they can achieve their dreams. This is what Clarkston Community Schools wants for each and every one of our students. So tonight I want to talk about our 10 goals that are created surrounding 4 pillars. These 10 goals have not changed. And our 4 pillars focus on whole person development. And for whatever reason, when we put this plan together, they were always in purple. All right, so I'm going to kind of stick with that color tonight when we talk about whole person development. There were 3 goals there. We look at foundational and academic skills. We also have our 3 goals that we've stuck to, and anything related to foundation and academic skills, we decided was going to be green. Our orange, student focused learning, and we had 2 goals there. In our last pillar, future pathways, we stuck with blue, and we have 2 goals there. And so these goals aren't always achieved in 1 year. It takes time, and our strategic plan was developed through the year 2025. Knowing that we had 1 full year of COVID, I'm wondering if we should extend that 1 year, but we can talk about that. But what we developed were strategies within these goals, and strategies are action steps that we can do as a system to help achieve these goals. When we looked at all the strategies that we've put in place, we found that 3 focus areas emerged. It really centered around our well-being, our community, and academics. And so tonight I want to focus on those 3 areas. And you'll see that tonight, well-being, community, and academic. If we look at the first goal within whole person, we see we will improve the overall well-being of staff, students, and families. And let's take our second goal in student-focused learning. We will develop meaningful relationships among students, staff, and families. And so we decided that that's related to well-being, and so sometimes these pillars cross over one another. Again, I just want to emphasize it takes time to achieve these goals. And so sometimes you're going to see that these strategies are extended over 1 year because it does take that time. So we are now in year 3, launching this into the fall of 2019, and this is year 3 of our strategic plan. And I want to begin focusing just on the elementary division. So you'll see 2 strategies there. You'll see green and orange. Again, green focusing on foundation and academic skills, and our orange focusing on student-focused learning. You're also going to see tonight within these circles, sometimes there's a double band around a circle, and we wanted to communicate that that meant this is new this year. So the green strategy, the implement programs of developing social emotional learning, that is a new strategy this year, where the other provide opportunities to create connections between staff and students, which will support and enhance learning throughout a child's educational experience. That is a continued strategy. So what is the impact around these two strategies? What systemic and cultural shifts might these strategies contribute to? The first, growth in our understanding of the power of relationships, connections across all settings. We know that relationships remain the #1 factor in helping our students achieve. When I say all settings, this includes bus drivers, cafeteria, our aides, our teaching staff, etc. The second bullet there, increased consistency in our knowledge and understanding of trauma, restorative approaches, mindfulness, aspects of social emotional learning, and addressing bullying for all staff. This does require high effective professional learning as we embrace this. We want to increase consistency in our application of implementation of our strategies and programs, putting our learning into action, and then to ensure that our schools are safe, equitable, and an inclusive learning environment for all. When we talk about activities, these are the action steps within these strategies that we can put in place. Our first is we want to continue our trauma-informed champions with Dr. Jim Henry. We started this work with Dr. Jim Henry. He is from Western Michigan University. He is the co-founder of the Children's Trauma Assessment Center. And he led us in exploring some social emotional learning as well. This is how students can manage their emotions, because sometimes it does interfere with their learning and concentration. We've looked at Leader in Me, second steps, and even zones of regulation. Implement social emotional coach and interventions. We're very proud to say that we have a social emotional coach at the elementary division servicing all 7 elementaries. And we also have interventionists serving at our title buildings. We also look at implementation of restorative approach for conflicts and consequences. And we're also looking at mindfulness application. This is tools that help children to be able to be present in the classroom, whether they're breathing activities, even just sitting up straight, even really paying attention to our senses. And finally, the outcomes. This is the evidence, the anecdotal observations. These are the measurables. How do we know that we are being successful? And so what we hope to see in outcomes for these two strategies is an increase in staff knowledge around trauma-informed practices. This can be observed. Our increase in number of classrooms that have a safe space for students. This also can be observed. A decrease in number of classroom behaviors that are making it to the office. This can be documented. And an increase in number of students that feel connected to adults, and this can be known through a student survey. I'd like to now go to community, and as you'll see, these are 3 purple circles. So this is whole person development, and this is a continuation from the year previous. So we want to continue and expand successful community partnerships to support well-being. We want to address the needs of each person's healthiest self, their emotional, physical, environmental, and social wellness, and disease prevention. And we want to communicate current resources and programs clearly to our stakeholders. The impact. All people feel safe, healthy, engaged, safe, supported in our community. We want to continue to increase our capacity to understand the specific needs of our community, its diverse groups, and members of our most vulnerable populations. We want to build trust. We want to build trust among our staff and students. Collective responsibility and reliability for one another. Being culturally responsive in our partnerships. We want staff gaining a greater understanding of cultural competencies and respect. Cultural competencies refer to the ability to understand, to appreciate, and interact with people from cultures or belief systems that are different from our own. We want to ensure that members of our school and greater community have the opportunity to take advantage of our resources. We want to expand on current programs and partnerships which have been successful. We've had partnerships with medical, business, social services, support programs, etc. And we want to strengthen and deepen partnerships with various community organizations. For example, we've had partnerships with local churches. We've had Real Talk from the high school on church campuses. They've provided mentors. They've provided food for our children and students in our schools. What are some activities around these three strategies? We want to continue partnership with Easter Seals. We want to examine partnerships with CMG, that's the Clarkston Medical Group, with health clinics. We want to expand LaFontaine Pack of Dogs. We're very excited to bring on our 4th dog very soon. She will serve at the Early Childhood Center. It's making a great impact in terms of helping our kids. We have the LEO project, which is the Literacy Essential of Oakland. This is focusing on literacy, but we are focused on family engagement. The implementation of Equity and Inclusion Coordinator. This is 1 hour release time for our coordinator to help our staff understand the needs and cultures of our student population so we can be responsive in helping to support and teach all of our students. Resources for parents on our website. HAP, Wellbeing Program for staff. HAP provides newsletters promoting healthy habits, webinars to our staff, and focuses on well-being. And our community has even provided food for staff, and it's been a beautiful piece just to support our teachers and our staff as we move forward. So what are the outcomes that we hope to see? We hope to see an increase in utilizing website for our resources. This can be found through user data. We hope to increase the number of visitors and community members that are signed up for our school clinics. This can be documented. Increase participation in family engagement in school-related activities. We can document this. Increase community partnerships. Again, we can document this. In our free and reduced participation, we can utilize a survey. Our free and reduced services does provide even support in athletics for our secondary, college entries, and other resources that can benefit our families. And at the elementary, the last area of focus I would like to speak to is academic. So we want to empower instructional staff to use effective practices ensuring student growth. That's a continuation. We have a new blue, Future Pathways, continuous development for curriculum integration based on student interests and workplace trends. And then a new also, in orange, student-focused learning, identify what constitutes mastery learning. Looking at impact, increasing technology integration with learning as a meaningful instructional tool, and I think Angela spoke very well to this. Utilization of coaches and interventionists for academic growth and success. We have math coaches, literacy coaches, math interventionists, and literacy interventionists, all certified teachers in all 7 of our elementary schools. We have started the professional learning with these teachers to grow our skills in Tier 1 and Tier 2 instructional levels. Tier 1 is referring to meeting students' needs within our classrooms. This is where our coaches coach our teachers. In Tier 2, for the level of students who need additional supports, this can happen within the classroom, sometimes right from our teachers, and also our interventionists, and sometimes it's a pull-out support structure as well. We want to continue to work together to meet the needs of all our students rather than separate entities within our district, and more opportunities of career awareness and interests at the elementary level. So our activities surround us with creating and implementing an MTSS process. This is a multi-tiered system of supports. This is how we look at data to see how our children are performing, and we make decisions to either change it up or do we keep on going, and it shows how students are performing. We want a development of teacher strategies and units of study. This is integrated learning. We've taken a long look and we continue to work on integrated learning. So how does science relate to a writing unit? And so if we can power up and blend those two subjects together, it's very beneficial, I think, for kids as well as our teachers. Implement academic support, that's skill gap instruction and opportunities for enrichment, using assessments to determine individual needs. Again, that speaks right to MTSS. Our staff continues learning and growing in Leader in Me. Our subject area coordinators plan professional learning with our data administrator on effective PLCs that is focused around data. And we're even going to implement a career day for our elementary students to see what they're interested in and what they feel they're good at. This is what we hope to see in our outcomes, is an increased staff knowledge of key standards in content areas. This can be done through a survey. But our pacing guides, our subject area coordinators at the elementary level have done an incredible job in looking at pacing guides with key standards that are evident. These are the must-dos that kids have to know within each content area at every grade level. To increase in number of students proficient in these key standards, this is through assessment. To increase in grade level PSCs using guided questions that guide our conversations to examine data, again, documentation. An increase in cohesiveness of supports provided based on a process, documentation as well as observation. And an increase in students recognizing their interests and their passions through observation. And now I'd like to transition to our secondary division. I'd like to focus on the well-being, to implement programs for developing social emotional learning. This is a new strategy within foundational and academic skills at the secondary level. And our purple is a continuation. Continue and implement programs and policies to prevent abuse, bullying, violence, and social exclusion, build social connections, and promote positive mental and emotional health. So again, starting with impact. Increase collaboration among colleagues in addressing these issues. Increase in a common understanding of how these issues impact students and how they impact student learning. A consolidation of resources on where to go when we receive information on students related to these issues. Where to go? We have social workers, administration. Is it an immediate parent contact? Is it a break room? Is it a counselor? We want to make sure that that happens. Growth in our understanding of the power of relationships and connections across all settings. Increased consistency in our knowledge and understanding of trauma, restorative approaches, and addressing bullying for all staff. And then an increased consistency in our application and implementation of our strategies and programs. To ensure that our schools are safe, equitable, and inclusive learning environments for all, and staff gaining a greater understanding of cultural competencies and respect. And again, that's the ability to understand, appreciate, and interact with people from cultures or belief systems that are different from our own. And so what activities do we want to put in place around these strategies? Again, we want to refer to Dr. Jim Henry and come back with our trauma-informed champion work. These were represented groups from every building. They were social workers, administration, counselors, teacher leaders that led the work in the professional learning around trauma-informed. Restorative practices, professional learning, and implementation. Restorative practices is about the safety for all, connection within our communities, and a process for responding when incidences arise. Professional learning from the International Institute of Restorative Practices just occurred this week, and where we talk about with kids what happened, what were the impacts, not only to yourself but to others, and how we can make plans moving forward. We want to put in place resources for our parents that are on the website. And we want to be thoughtful in our lesson design for pause. This is a time allotted at Sasheville Middle School, Wolf time. It's time allotted at the junior high as well as the high school. And community forums is the time allotted at Renaissance High School. That we can think about mindfulness, we can think about social emotional learning, help our students. And then this is what we hope to see. Increased student understanding of these issues. And this can be held through a student survey as well as observation. Increase in staff knowledge around trauma-informed practice. This can be observed. An increase in places in buildings that are safe. They are a safe space for students. This can be observed. We want to decrease the number of classroom behaviors that make it to the office. This is documentation. We want to increase in the number of students feeling connected to our adults. This is a student survey. We want to see an increase in our growth mindset in understanding students and their behaviors. A survey, and also we can observe. We want to increase in our common language used to describe, explain, observe student behavior and interactions. This can be observed. We want to increase authentic connections in our relationships, and this can be observed. At the secondary level, I'd like to focus on this area of focus, community. And we have 3, they are all in purple, and they are focused on whole person development, and they're an extension. So to continue and expand successful community partnerships to support well-being, to address the needs of each person's healthiest self, emotional, physical, environmental, and social wellness, and disease prevention, and communicate current resources and programs clearly to our stakeholders. So the impact, all people feel safe, healthy, engaged, safe, supported in our community. It's going right back to our mission statement. Continuing to increase our capacity to understand the specific needs of our community. Understanding students that come from poverty, that come from trauma. Recognizing their diverse groups and members of our more vulnerable populations. Once again, we want to build trust. We want to have a collective responsibility and reliability for one another. We want to be culturally responsive in our partnerships. We want to ensure that members of our school and greater community has the opportunity to take advantage of our resources. To expand on current programs and partnerships, we have been successful, again, going back to the medical, business, social services support programs that we've had. And we want to strengthen and deepen partnerships with various civic and religious organizations. Activities that we'd like to see. Let's continue and expand partnerships with Easter Seals. Let's examine partnerships with our Clarkton Medical Group, with health clinics. Expand LaFontaine Pack of Dogs. Let's get therapy dogs at the secondary level. Implement equity and inclusion coordinator. Again, just like at the elementary, we have a coordinator with 1 hour release time to help our staff understand the needs and cultures of our student population, so we can be responsive in helping to support and teach all of our students. To increase family engagement. Resources for parents on our website. We'd like our parents to access that. Again, our HAP, well-being program for staff. And again, let's feed our secondary people. The outcomes that we would like to see is to increase in utilizing the website for resources. So again, going back to the user data. To increase the number of visitors and community members signed up for the school clinics, this can be documented. To increase participation in family engagement and school-related activities, this can go back to documentation. Increase community partnerships, documentation. And again, our free and reduced participation, there's so many valuable resources within that, and we'd like to utilize a survey. And our last piece is academics. So there's lots of circles here. We have 2 green, 2 orange, 2 blue. Some are new, and some are an extension. So to create curriculum consistency at the secondary level, aligning our philosophy, practice, and use of data. Student-focused learning, identify essential curriculum, and clarify how students demonstrate mastery learning. In our future pathways, something that's new, develop a framework for collecting, analyzing, and responding to student interest, perception, and outlook data, and to develop staff to respond to student interests. So we think about impact for these 6 circles, these 6 strategies. Consistent and meaningful learning experience within our instruction and curriculum. Consistent use of data in order to make decisions. Programming responsive to the career interests of students and aligning it within our system. And the district is responsive to changes in patterns based on career shifts in employment. We look at the activities that we'd like to see and put in place, create and implement our MTSS process, our multi-tiered system of support. A subcategory of this is the continued work with our database decision-making secondary team, where we've started a conversation around data and how we make decisions. Create a career readiness leadership team that's going to enhance our system and career readiness for all our students. And our subject area coordinators, they design professional learning with PLCs to identify ways and practices for identifying mastery of content. And the outcomes that we would like to see, the evidence, is the increased staff knowledge of essential curriculum in our content areas, survey. The increase in shared understanding of what student mastery is, survey. To increase in course-level professional learning communities using guided questions that guide our conversations to examine data, documentation. An increase in cohesiveness of supports provided based on a process, documentation, and observation. The strategic plan requires teamwork. I don't think anyone can do these strategies and put these strategies in place, achieve these goals without all of us together. This is an all-staff endeavor, including central office, administrators, our teachers, and our support structures. I think we have to remind ourselves that we have to remain flexible, and we have to continue to reflect. I think you heard tonight a lot of focus on data. It's really important that we see how our kids are performing, how are they doing, and then we adjust and we continue to move forward. I want to thank you for allowing me to share the strategic plan. I'm excited for this year and the possibilities that are ahead for our students, our staff, and our families. Thank you.
Great. Thank you so much, Mrs. Mahoney. Thank you. There's a lot to unpack there, I know, and so I think I'm just going to go down the row and see what questions or conversation we want to have with the board, and then I'll invite Mrs. Hampton up, who had asked to address the board on the strategic plan. But Mrs. McGinnis, why don't I start with you, and we can just go down the row. I mean, I know there's a lot to unpack here in terms of the work of the district this year.
I guess the biggest thing I'd like to say as a trained school board trustee with over 14 years of experience, data is the key to how we move our children down the academic spectrum. And the focus and continuation of seeking and using data to make informed decisions is a key to our academic achievement. And thank you, Nancy.
Go ahead, Mrs. Crane. Yes.
Thank you. Thank you very much for this very thoughtful presentation, for all you've done. I think we all know the last 18 months especially have not been easy, but even before that, so much work went into this and so much just cohesive, everybody working together. I'm glad you brought up adding another year. That's been something I've been thinking about, so I was going to bring it up. So I think we should move forward and talk about that.
And I was very happy to see a couple of the additions in the circles here because they're things that have already been on my mind. So again, thank you. I thought it was well done.
Mr. Heyer?
I had a few thoughts that I don't think we want to dive in tonight, but as we look toward the end of the school year, I think we want to circle back to a few things. And one of those is within the current USDA framework that we're dealing with, I wonder how that free and reduced participation affects things and how the regulations, kind of hit us there. I mean, that's a data point we want to look at, and something that I know we're ultra careful in both observation and our data is to make sure that, we're taking care of the families that need to be taken care of. And we use that as a data point here, which I think is a great one. Obviously, that's skewed given our current environment, what we're dealing with. So I'm just interested in observations as we get toward the end of the school year of how we deal with that and think about that. And then I wonder, process-wise, we've got a great strategic plan here, and historically the strategic plan has related to our district and school improvement plans and driven some of the state required work. And as we discussed, it seems like ages ago, it's just a couple months ago, I think, the MDE has this new Michigan continuous improvement process. Mm-hmm. And I think as we get toward the end of this school year and maybe start next school year, that comes into play more. So I'm interested in, and I think as a board, we're interested in looking at how the transition takes place there, ultimately driven by the strategic plan and what that means as it comes to some of the state requirements that ultimately this will drive, because obviously consistency is key. And then as we've approved our system of supports, again, it seems like a long time ago, but it was just a few months ago. I think it's really important as we look at how many years this goes and what the consistency here is. The longer we can stick with our plan, I think the better the results and outcomes are. And so we looked at some data that sort of drew us into that plan, and I'm really interested in looking at the data as we continue to measure at the end of this school year and as we get into next school year, what those outcomes are, because I think it's going to be really important as a board that we're responsible for our community, that we're spending these resources wisely and showing the appropriate impacts on students. And so I think obviously that all comes from this strategic plan, and I'm going to, over the next few years, I'm going to continue to remind us that we want to look at that and prove that out. And I think if there's a flaw in education, it's that we potentially abandon something too soon or get off to something new. And I think we've got some really data and research-based things that we're looking at here, and I want to encourage us to really stick with it, stay the course as the data shows. And so I appreciate where we're at. The fact that we've survived a pandemic, certainly I think that slowed us down. I don't know that we've abandoned anything in the course of dramatically changing up our program, and I think that speaks to the robustness and flexibility of what we've put together. I think flexibility is a word that maybe that's a new core value for Clarkston schools here as we go forward, because we want to be able to turn on a dime and meet the needs of our staff and our students and our community. And that's something that I think we've done as good as we possibly can, and something we're going to continue to do more. And as I think about the last almost 2 years now, if I rewound and I thought, what could we do differently? Like, what do we know now that we could have done differently then? Like, I don't really have anything else on that list. And that means I think that we did as good of a job as we could then, and it still proves true now. So I think the focus that we have on our students is the right place to be focused. And I think I'm looking forward to continuing the path that we're on.
Thank you, Mr. Heyer. I think when I see words like student mastery and proficiency, those were the things that really jumped out at me. And I know one of our priorities, and I felt like it was one that almost all 7 of us really highlighted back in July, was the idea of measuring and tracking academic growth. And I think a lot of that came out of the significant investment that we made in that system of supports. But really a lot of I'd say some of the significant changes that we made over the course really of the last year in terms of some curriculum that we felt like was going to have a longer term impact overall in advancing some students and moving some students along academically. And so those are some things I think that as far as the agenda planning team goes and as the administration goes, that we need to be very purposeful in always bringing that back to the board and making sure that very regularly as the administration has that data, as often as you have it, to bring it back to the board and share it, because I think that clearly was one of the top priorities that we had for the year, was to keep an eye on that. So those were the words that really jumped out at me, that idea of mastery and proficiency. And so making sure that that stays on our agenda throughout the course of not only this year, but in the coming years as well. Ms. Catalina?
All right, thank you. First, I just want to say thank you for this presentation. I can tell a lot of time and effort went into it. Coming off of the pandemic, my biggest concern is the well-being and social-emotional state of our students and our staff. And to see this still implemented in our strategic plan with some new things makes me excited. Being an educator myself in the data, I'm very data-driven and I understand how data works. So I'm interested to see, in the next few years, implementing this well-being and the social-emotional stuff of our strategic plan, where we start from and where we're going to finish in 2025, or if we do extend to 2026, which I am I'm in support of that after coming off of the 2021 school year. So it's exciting that we're back, we're fairly normal, and we can go back to putting this back into place. So.
Thank you. Mrs. Egan.
I would concur with a lot of the comments already made, so I don't want to restate them, but thank you, Mrs. Mahoney. Certainly, data-driven decision-making is important to us, and I also hope that we don't get a little too hung up on some of the data, because we've got about 24 months here to really, it's hard to really say what can we measure over the last 18 months. But I like the fact that we're focusing on the career supports for our kids, because at the end of the day, that's what we're really trying to do, is get them through K through 12, actually pre-K through 12, and make them ready for the world out there. I loved hearing about the integration of writing and science and the technology, and that we're making these tools transparent, so that it's just a way of life for the kids. And I'm just grateful that we're getting back to normal. So thank you again for your presentation.
A couple of things I would add is kind of what I call the Clarkson advantage, is most districts that I associate with, when we start looking at items in a strategic plan, it's more of a flowery thing. It seems to be done every several years, then kind of put on a shelf. Really feel like the team has done a really good job with support and collaboration, the board, to really add some meat onto those bones and really try to look for some tangible outcomes that can be relatable to actually affecting why we're all here, which is for students. The other thing that I observe, and I really feel very proud to be part of the process, is that it really is a way to unite the entire district. A lot of districts have it to where their buildings have different goals that are kind of focused on different items, even between elementary and secondary, but between the buildings themselves. One nice part of Clarkson, I think, right now that we have is there's unity. There's unity and focus of our elementary and what we're working on, the focus areas, and how we're trying to get student outcomes improved. And that transcends all the way up, not only connecting into the secondary buildings, but those outcomes. As you heard, eventually our goal is not just to create high school seniors. Right. Our goal is really to create individuals that are ready for the world as they move past Clarkson High School. Whatever challenges they have, that training that develops starts in kindergarten and it goes all the way through. And it's a complete team effort of all those integral parts. You can break those elements that you heard in the strategic plan into different strategies in different areas, and I think it makes sense in understanding to look at them as pillars. But eventually those pillars really blend together into one experience that students have. And that's the part that really kind of takes it, and eventually it has to also translate not only for kids, but what happens in that relationship between our teachers and in classrooms, and for our kids to be able to kind of dream more as they go through the program, getting ready for their next steps. So I appreciate, Ms. Mahoney, the work you put into this, and I really think throughout the year we'll be able to give updates, and I'm one that really likes to see that tangible, that data. Although you don't have to focus, data is not everything. Right. It definitely needed to kind of help guide the ship and waypoints to really kind of describe and give us a good sense of where we're at and where we're going. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. And we had one citizen who had requested to address the board on the strategic plan, Kimberly Hempton. Mrs. Hempton, if you'll state your name and address, and you'll have 2 minutes.
Good evening, President Heyer, Board of Education. My name is Kimberly Hempton. My address is 6380 Walden Woods Drive, Clarkston, Michigan. And I think that I would first like to say in response to the conversation that you've just held that in each Google Meet, I was fortunate enough to sit alongside one of my children this past school year. I saw elements of that plan alive and well. So I don't know that we're just back. I think it's been ongoing, and our educators are a tremendous tribute to that. I've been a proud member of this community since 1995, and the activities and outcomes have impacted all of our children here, but particularly my 3 children. We use a lot of acronyms in education, and I've observed some confusion recently about some of them. Responsive teaching, specifically culturally responsive teaching as defined by Zaretta Hammond, is not only about who is sitting directly in front of us or next to us in our classrooms, but also in the larger global context, as Mr. Ryan just pointed out, Dr. Ryan. I applaud the district's commitment to this work and for continuing to build on the traditions of excellence here. Excellence is being a globally ready contributor. Excellence is caring for others. Excellence is perspective seeking, understanding others and what it means to other, and most importantly, continuing to do better when that occurs. Please continue to support our administrators and educators in this room and outside of this room that continue to stretch all of our children on their learning journeys. I applaud each of you here today and thank you for continuing to outgrow yourselves again and again in the name of our children and the children that all of our kids will interface with all over this world. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. All right, we'll move on to action items. Item 6.1 is approval of personnel changes. May I have a motion, please?
I move that the Board of Education approves the personnel changes as listed on the attached sheets.
Support.
Are there any questions or discussion from the board? Hearing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? The motion carries. Item 6.2 is approval of office furnishings purchase for Andersonville Elementary, Pine Knob Elementary, and Sashabaw Middle School. May I have a motion, please?
I move the Board of Education approve furniture purchases to Area Incorporated in the amount of $49,611.77 as presented.
Support.
Are there any questions or discussion from the board? Hearing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? The motion carries. Item 6.3 is approval of certification of delegates for the Michigan Association of School Board Delegate Assembly. May I have a motion, please?
I move that the Board of Education decide if they wish to designate delegates and alternates to the 2021 MASB Delegate Assembly and submit those names electronically.
Support.
So trustees, as you know, the annual MASB convention is coming up in November, and based on our student enrollment, we're entitled to have up to 4 voting delegates and 4 alternates, which of course is funny math, as there aren't 8 of us, but I guess this is just depending on your own travel plans. It's Thursday evening at 6 p.m., and so I just wanted to throw that out there for whoever is intending to be there already on Thursday night, if we want to send any voting delegates. So that's
I will
just,
be.
All right, Mrs. Egan, I know I will be as well.
I will be there.
I will be there.
I will be there.
All right, so we have 5 of us. So does anyone want to just be an alternate then?
I'll be an alternate. No,
Okay.
that's fine.
Well, that's easy enough. Okay, so we have Mr. Heyer, Mrs. Egan, Mrs. McGinnis, and Mrs. Horst, and Mrs. Crane will be our alternate.
And we might as well designate Mr. Need.
As an alternate as well? Are we? I'm not certain he's going to be there Thursday night, but we can. I guess we can.
Mrs. Catalina.
I will be coming up Friday. But,
We have the spots,
Oh yeah, but you won't be there.
right, so I won't be there, so.
just in case.
Okay.
There's no harm.
I'll drive.
So, Mrs. Crane, would you accept a friendly amendment to insert the names into your motion?
Yes. Do I have to say it all again?
No.
No, you can just
And
say
then-
you accept the friendly amendment.
accept
And who
the
supported?
friendly amendment.
Who seconded the motion? Do you accept the
I do,
support the friendly amendment? Thank you. Okay, so All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay, thank you. The motion carries. Easy enough. Item 7 is report items. There are none. Item 8 is discussion items. There are none tonight. Item 9 is citizen comments. Citizens are welcome to address the board on any topic at this point on the agenda. So I have a list here already of citizens who had signed up previously when we were back at item 3. And so Mrs. McLean has the list of citizens who have signed up during the course of the meeting. Thank you very much. Very good. Okay. So ladies and gentlemen, just to remind you, we have 2 microphones, one right down here, one up there on the mezzanine. And I think we are familiar with the procedures by now when I call your name, and I'll probably just call a couple at a time just so you can be on deck, so to speak, and know which microphone you want to head to. If you'll please state your name and address, and you'll have 2 minutes. We'll start with Nicole Braden and then Janice Hubble. Great, and maybe give a wave if you're in the back so I know where to look.
Hello, I'm up here.
Thank you very much.
Good evening. It's really wonderful to see so many engaged community members tonight. But I wanted to approach the board.
I'm sorry, name and address, please. First.
I apologize. My name is Nicole Braden. I live on Marmora in Independence Township. I wanted to approach the board and Dr. Ryan tonight to thank them for their continued support of equity and inclusion. I'm a mom of 2 kids with disabilities, 2 very different disabilities. And equity and inclusion has been part of our dialogue since my boys started school years ago. The teachers, occupational therapists, physical therapists, school psychologists, and other support staff have been a huge part of both of my kids' educational journey. Parenthood is hard enough, but raising kids with disability has its extra challenges. There's a team-like mentality to get kids like mine to the finish line, which is graduation. Clarkston Community Schools have always been awesome teammates since the beginning. Thank you again for always striving to provide the best education to all students here in Clarkston. I grew up in Clarkston, and the biggest conflict I remember as a kid was when Clarkston Junior High Wolves played Sashaba Junior High Cougars. I don't know if anyone remembers that. That stuff that is ripping through our community right now is breaking my heart. We are a strong community, and we are better than this. Our children are watching us. Our children are watching us to see how we resolve these conflicts, and we are failing them. Revisiting our respect code was the best move for our community, and I appreciate Dr. Ryan's leadership to remind us how we should be treating one another. Thank you again for the opportunity to speak tonight.
Thank you so much for your comments.
Hi, I'm Janice Hubel, and I live on Shannon Lane in Clarkston. I want to express my appreciation and support to you, the school board, and you, Dr. Ryan, and all of the Clarkston teachers and staff. My son attended 13 years in Clarkston schools. He had many great experiences. Of course, there were a few bumps in the road, but we worked through those along with the school staff as we went along. In his later years, as he continued on his journey of self-discovery, he realized he was transgender. His father and I had a difficult time with this initially, didn't fully understand it, very open in general to the LGBT community, but when it's your own child and it's transgender, sometimes it can feel a little bit different than just saying I'm gay. But looking back, there were so many signs throughout his childhood from the time he was a preschooler. And for anybody who questions that he might have been influenced or indoctrinated or whatever words you want to use, if any of you know my child, you could vouch for me that he is a very, and has always been a very independent-minded person. That independence is killing me a little bit right now because he's off at college and I'm not hearing from him often enough because of that independence. If not for diversity, equity, and inclusion taking place in Clarkston schools, My son may not be on this earth today. Instead, I'm proud to say he's now a thriving freshman at a university in Michigan with a bright future and so much to offer the world, just as God intended. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Next, we have Mary Herzensteel and then Andrea Johnson. Yes, no?
Say it again, Kelly.
I don't know if they can hear it.
I'm sorry, could you not hear me? Mary Herzensteel and then Andrea Johnson. Sorry.
Sorry about the delay. Yeah, I couldn't hear you.
Sorry about that.
That's all right. Hi, I'm Mary Herzensteel. I live in Big Lake in Davisburg. President Horst, members of the school board, and Dr. Ryan, I attended school not far from here in Huron Valley. We had family in Clarkston, and I always thought it was a great town. The town seemed friendly and had lots of community activities, and I was happy to find a home where my kids could attend Clarkston schools. Something is changing, though. It's sort of like a dystopian novel where people begin to turn against each other, to find reasons everywhere to mistrust their neighbors, their schools, and their local leaders, to ask parents and students to turn in teachers, to heckle or mock their neighbors at public meetings. This is Clarkston. We're C-Town. This is not us or who we want to be. We ask our children to follow rules about social engagement and decorum, and we should hold ourselves to the same standards. I thank Dr. Ryan for his letter encouraging respect. Moving on from that, I want to repeat what I said at the last meeting. I support diversity, equity, and inclusion in our schools. I'm not the only one who feels this way. There are many parents with the same concerns about the disrespect shown to our teachers, and they want diversity, equity, and inclusion coordinators in our Clarkston schools. In fact, many of them are here tonight to stand up, to say they agree. Not all of them will be speaking tonight, but we stand together to support the teachers, we stand together to support the teachers, the school board, Dr. Ryan, and diversity, equity, and inclusion. Thank you for letting us speak tonight.
Thank you for your comments. Andrea Johnson. Okay, we'll move on. Is it Goy Ulyart? And then Mark Green.
Can you hear me?
I can. Please state your name and address, and you have 2 minutes.
Thank you. I'm Goy Ulyart. I live in Wood Glen Estates in Clarkston.
Thank you.
President Horst, the board, Dr. Ryan. I've lived in Clarkston for many years now. My children were schooled here. I'm not a politician, and I'm not an activist. And despite my accent, I believe in American dreams and equal opportunity. Earlier this year, our district announced an equity plan. Our superintendent described it as one of the largest changes in Clarkston schools in the last 50 years. The plan includes a subtle departure from the belief that every child is provided an equal school opportunity. And we've also seen recently that DEI teacher training has quietly started in our schools. I'd like to share a few thoughts. Why was there no meaningful public dialogue surrounding the equity plan? And 2 weeks after revealing the plan, the board approved it 7-0. Why so rushed? Why has information about DEI teacher training been so hard to obtain? This board meeting is a rare chance to hear the full community voice. Why only allow us 2 minutes to speak? I am a member of the group called Clarkston Parents United. I joined the group so you could hear our voices and hopefully listen too. Our superintendent did send a letter recently titled Supporting a Culture of Respect. In the letter, our group is described by Dr. Ryan. These individuals seem to want to deny us opportunity to respectfully and constructively have dialogue by supporting a national narrative that seeks to fracture teacher-parent trust. It's simply not true. Our group
Thank you
wants
for your comments.
transparency and constructive dialogue. I need 5 seconds.
No, sir. Thank you for your comments. Thank you for your comments. Thank you. 2 minutes. Mark Green. Thank you. Mr. Green. And then Doug Jenkins.
Mark Green, Bridge Lake Road. President Horst, the board, Dr. Ryan, I want to address the wildly popular Clarkston Parent United Woke Incident Report. This report was created to monitor CRT and DEI showing up in the class, which you promised would not happen. Created as a place for parents to report if indeed it did happen. Room number, teacher name, and a place to download supporting evidence was required. We had no intentions on forward any of these reports to you unless they were 100% factual and had supporting evidence. In the email you sent to the teachers 2 days prior to the parent email, you stated to the teachers that you were not going to entertain any of these reports. Here's the problem with that. Dr. Ryan instructed us to do what we did. Not only did he tell us to report to him when CRT DEI showed up in the class, he told us to make it public. He challenged us to do so. Dr. Ryan's exact words recorded at the August 9th board meeting. If you see what you fear, then report it to me and make it public, because I am putting that challenge out there. His words, and we did exactly what he told us to do. A little about Clarkston Parents United. We currently have 450 members that are well organized. We meet and we communicate privately. We have hundreds of children right now in the schools that have been instructed what to look for. They're watching, paying attention, and reporting to the parents. Lastly, Clarkston Parents United is growing rapidly. We are informed, we are angry, and we are very dug in and not going anywhere. And we will hold all of you accountable if you continue the path of indoctrinating our children with highly flawed and destructive liberal ideology. Thanks for inviting me to speak.
Thank you for your comments.
Sucks being short. Doug Jenkins, Oakhurst Ridge in Clarkston. First of all, I'd like to say congratulations to the lady out back. I don't remember your name, but having a transgender son. My oldest son, Zach, came out gay last year. He's getting married next year to his partner, Matt. So I understand your situation. And personally, I think it's the parents' responsibility to help them, not the schools. With that being said, I want to discuss Dr. Ryan's 2 emails he sent last week, one of the teachers and one of the parents. The Clarkston Parents United are in a group of radical parents, okay? We believe in diversity. We believe in equality, okay? But we don't believe in the way you're going to promote it. Let me give you an example. I'm part of the group. You called me a radical. Myself and my wife have raised 5 kids in Clarkston. 4 have already graduated over the last 16 years, and 1's in school right now. We love this school. Not one of you have heard anything negative from my wife or myself before the last couple months about the school district, about the teachers who we have a lot of friends with and who we love, okay? You've heard nothing from us negative. So to say we're radical and all of a sudden, Doug Jenkins all of a sudden has time on his hands, so let's go harass the school board, let's harass the schools. It's just a ridiculous notion, okay? What we're upset about is the agenda you're pushing. And we've had meetings, Dr. Ryan, as you know, we've had private meetings and what have you, and we believe what we're being told is not what's happening, and that's why we're upset, and that's why, as Mark stated, we're not going anywhere. And the only way to get this done and accomplished is communication on both sides and everybody being upfront and actually honest with each other. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Next, we have Christy Giampatroni and then Rebel Molina.
Hi, I'm Christy Giampatroni. Good evening. Thank you for the opportunity to speak.
Please state your address. And then you have your 2
15
minutes.
Walden Road, Clarkston. Conflict, confrontation, and disagreements. These three have been stirring more intensely lately within our community and our schools. But does this surprise us? Why should it? We parents have been faced with an overwhelmingly huge giant, a dragon, if I might say. Equity, CRT, and DEI is his name. He rides with great force and power. He reigns and comes through high places of power. Comes through the federal government, to the state, to the local government, to our schools and institutions of all sorts. So let's not shake our heads as if we don't see it. It's here, equity. We've allowed it for years. He's grown, and it's so big we can't ignore it. Equity, CRT, and DEI is not as it seems. He's subtle, he lies, he deceives. So what do you expect parents to do? What would you do if you were facing a giant? Would you surrender? Or would you fight to save your children from being indoctrinated? We are fighting an ideology, an idol. We wrestle not against flesh and blood, but against principalities and powers in high places. If we come across intense, asking questions, frustrated, persistent, it's because we are in pursuit to seek the truth. We will not bow down to CRT. We will stop these ideologies. The ideology is a giant. This is not going to be pretty. It hasn't been the past few weeks. There may be some things said, misunderstandings, sparks flying, disagreements, and confrontations. But we're not a perfect human race, but our hearts and our purpose is sure. We're not against people personally, but we are against the ideology. We want to defend our faith. We want to defend our freedom. We want to defend our community that we love and defend our children. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Thank you so much for your comments. Next, we have Rebel Molina.
Hello, my name is Rebel Molina. I live on Horseshoe Circle in Clarkston, Michigan. I would like to advocate for diversity, equity, and inclusion within the Clarkston School District. In my household alone, several different cultures, nationalities, races, ability levels, and religions are represented. I have 4 children with disabilities, and I moved here to afford them a good education. Never did I imagine that this move would expose my children to the type of racism, ignorance, and hatred. Nor did I believe that I would have to fight for them to retain the rights already established through IDEA, the 504 Rehabilitation Act, and several Supreme Court rulings. Witnessing the behavior of parents on social media and in person has illuminated for me how now more than ever DEI measures must be taken. Each of my children attending the school here has unique educational needs requiring teachers who are educated on how to provide instruction to a diverse population. When teachers receive diversity training, they also gain empowerment. When they receive proper contextual knowledge related to the culture and skill sets required to meet their students' educational needs, the students thrive. One of my children is a burn survivor, an amputee, and an English language learner. I appreciate the equity measures that are implemented within the district to ensure her access to the general education curriculum and allow her to experience the appropriate education. I have another daughter who is severely autistic. We moved from a district that required students with her educational needs to be bused out of my community in order to receive an education in a center-based facility, effectively separating her from the students within the general education population and her peers. Because of the inclusion measures implemented in this district, my daughter receives her education in the least restrictive environment within her peer community. When my family members, while my family members represent a few different populations, I
Thank you, Ms.
acknowledge.
Molina.
Apologize.
Thank you. Appreciate your comments. Next, we have Steve Whittington and then Tyra Blanks. Mr. Whittington?
Yes, ma'am.
Oh, okay, thank you.
Good afternoon. Can you hear me with the mask still on?
Yes, if you'll
Okay.
state your name and address, and you have your 2
Absolutely.
minutes. Thank you.
Oh, thank you. My name is Stephen Whittington, and I live on Deerwood Road in Clarkston, Michigan. I am a Clarkston alum. I highly value education. I owe all of my successes to the quality education I received from Clarkston schools. This district equipped me to succeed, and that is why my family moved back here when we had kids, to provide them that same opportunity. We have recently heard people complain about dubious influences coming into Clarkston's curriculum, and I'm here to say that I simply don't see it. My boys attend Independence Elementary. I look at the things that they bring home. I listen to the comments they have about their classroom activities. I engage with the staff. The material is spot on. I consider everything I have seen to be essential. The staff are remarkably caring, professional, and brave. My kids are learning to be kind, empathetic, thoughtful citizens, and it is a direct result of these amazing teachers. The fact is, teachers have been placed in an impossible position. They're on the front lines of COVID while walking a tightrope between political views. We are demanding more and more from our teachers while affording them less and less respect. Well, I'm here to say every educator that we have encountered has been nothing short of wonderful. They're exemplary and set the bar for other institutions. We are lucky to have them. I was pleased to read Dr. Ryan's email emphasizing his support for educators, and I am proud to live in a school district that prioritizes education and opportunity for all of its students. Thanks.
Next, we have Tyra Blanks and then Matt Dargay.
Good evening. My name is Tyra Blanks. My pronouns are she, her, and I live on Langle Drive in Clarkston, Michigan. We are ACA, Affirm, Celebrate, Advocate. We are a nonprofit organization based in Clarkston, created by parents of color in the Clarkston Community School District. We want a healthier environment for people of color and other marginalized groups that experience systemic discrimination. We affirm our stories in a safe space. We uplift families through celebrations and encouragement. We advocate for change, where we see a reimagined education structure inclusive of our children's differences. To the families of color and the LGBTQ plus communities, we are here for you. Meet us afterwards to learn more about us. You can also follow us on our socials, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. We are ACA. We will affirm, celebrate, and advocate for all of our families of color in Clarkston Community Schools.
Hi, I'm Matt Dargay, and I live on Medford Road in Ann Arbor, Michigan. Good evening, President Horst. I graduated from CHS in 2015, and I now work in addiction treatment in Ann Arbor. Having heard a little about the curriculum over the past few weeks, I regret that DEI was not part of my experience in Clarkston Community Schools. Just as I wish that my time in public school had taught me about doing taxes and fixing my car, I wish that I had learned, I know, right? I wish that I had learned then about how to interact respectfully with people who are different from me. That would have aided my transition into college and into the modern working world. Because here's the reality. Every corner of this country is growing increasingly diverse. No matter where CCS's students end up, they will be put in contact with people of every race, gender, and sexual orientation. And these people deserve respect, just like everyone else. So this community, I feel, owes its students the opportunity to learn now about diversity, equity, and inclusion, because they will need to understand these concepts for their personal and professional lives. I think that this is something everyone in the room can see the benefit of, no matter which party or ideology they support. To conclude, I will quote CCS's vision statement. It states that the district strives to make students well prepared for a future that excites them. Simply put, if CCS's students do not learn about diversity, equity, and inclusion, then they will not be well prepared for the future that awaits them after graduation. This is why I am firmly in favor of CCS's DEI curriculum, in favor of constructive dialogue about these issues, and against the harassment of educators who are seeing this initiative through. Thank you for your time.
Thank you for your comments. Next, we have Brooks Lamb-Budney and then Jason Nolan.
Hello, President Horst and the board. My name is Brooks Lamb-Budney. I live on Marmora in Clarkston. I am not someone who's comfortable with public speaking, but recent disturbing events in our school community have prompted me to come here today. First of all, I want to say thank you to you and the board for your tireless efforts during an extremely difficult time. Your work is truly valued and appreciated. I want to also say thank you to Dr. Ryan for your recent message to the community. It was necessary and appreciated. And most importantly, I want to say thank you to all of the teachers and staff who have worked tirelessly during extremely challenging years. I have no doubt there are many out there like me, not especially vocal, not inclined to come up and speak in front of a crowd, but who are truly grateful for all you have done for our children. Lastly, I want to express my support for any initiatives that support diversity, equity, and inclusion in our schools. I'm sure the majority of Clarkston families understand that this is not critical race theory. Many of us work for corporations that embrace such initiatives. These are corporations that many of our community's children will work at someday. Corporations have these initiatives because it is recognized that when people feel a sense of belonging, when they feel they aren't excluded, they perform better and the company has better performance. Who wouldn't want that for our community's children, to be able to feel a sense of belonging in their daily lives, to not feel excluded, and to enable them to have a successful school career? I certainly want that for all of our children, and I believe that most of the community does as well. Thank you for your time.
Thank you for your comments.
I'm Jason Nolan. I live at 5573 Birch Grove Lane in Independence Township. President Horst, fellow school board members, Dr. Ryan, and everyone in attendance. I've lived in Clarkston for 21 years, and all three of my children attended and graduated from Clarkston Community Schools. The quality of education they received while students at CCS was excellent. CCS is one of the gems of this community, and let's all try to remember that. Last year and this year have been extraordinarily challenging for all of the stakeholders in CCS. Coronavirus pandemic created a cascade of challenges for everyone. When the epilogue is written on this time, I'm sure there'll be much reflection and likely second guessing about decisions that were made and perhaps ways that things should have been done differently. The one thing I ask all the stakeholders to remember is why you are here in the first place. Our kids, the students. Students are here to learn and be nurtured in an environment that values them, supports them, and challenges them. The board administration, the teachers and support staff, and us parents, community members are all tasked with supporting that outcome. We have the same goal, we are on the same team, and here in Clarkston, more often than not, it's a winning team. Does that mean we have to agree on everything? No. For example, you're hearing tonight, there are real concerns among some parents regarding how diversity, equity, and inclusion initiatives will be implemented among teachers, staff, and students. Dr. Ryan, I'm sure you have tried to make this communication, but I'm asking you to redouble your efforts to communicate as clearly, as often about why and how these initiatives will manifest here in Clarkston. No one likes change, and I think there's a natural tendency amongst many to say, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. I think that's where a lot of the parents in the community are at. They see DEI efforts as a solution looking for a problem. You need to address some of those fears and assure parents that their fears, while real, will not come to pass. And let's not dismiss that these fears are entirely unfounded. We see in some universities and large companies.
Thank you, Mr. Nolan. Sorry, I have to stop you. Thank you so much. Appreciate your comments. Daryl Bialis, and then Roseanne Ward.
Daryl Bialis, Old Saybrook Road, Grand Blanc, Michigan. Good evening, President Horst and members of the Board of Education. My name is Daryl Bialis, and I'm the president of the Clarkston Education Association and a proud teacher at Clarkston High School. I stand before you tonight on behalf of the over 500 members of the CEA to say thank you for what you do and for serving in what lately seems to be a very thankless position. This last year and a half has not been easy for anyone in our society. This pandemic has thrown many curveballs at all of us as public educators. Through all of the ups, downs, and emotional moments, your CCS staff, many of whom you see in the audience tonight, continued to persevere and do right by our students. We adapted, we modified, we rolled with all of the changes, mandates, and unforeseen circumstances that the virus, the state legislature, and others have placed upon us, all while delivering the quality education to our students that Clarkston is known for. This constant state of flux was and still is exhausting for everyone. Our administration and you, our Board of Education, stood with us through it all. You treated us like professionals and provided us with the support we needed to continue to do the great things we have always done for our students. Over the last year and a half, I've never been more proud to call myself a Clarkston teacher or an employee of this district. And so I feel like I needed to attend this meeting tonight, along with a great many of my colleagues, to return that support that you have given us over the years. I want you to know that your employees support you and our district administration as we all move our district forward in providing a quality public education to all of our students and in providing equitable resources to help all of our learners reach their full potential. We are doing great things here in this district. Please don't doubt that. Again, thank you, and we support you.
Thank you for your comments. Roseanne Ward, and then David Meyer.
Hello, I'm Roseanne Ward.
I'm sorry, I was looking.
Yes, I know. It's quite a crew to follow, isn't it? My address is 4021 Ardsley. Dr. Ryan, I would like to address you first. And I'm just saying something that I feel from the heart. The letter that you sent out, this is a direct quote, denies us an opportunity for respectful and constructive dialogue by supporting a national narrative. Dr. Ryan, these are your community members. This is not a national narrative. Obviously, if there's this many people that have been going to your school board meetings and school board, they're very concerned about what's going on. They have the right, folks, to share. And the bottom line is, by you saying this, public shaming, you obviously did exactly what you accused these very people of, is
Please
public
address the board
shaming
as
the
a whole.
teachers.
Please don't address Dr. Ryan. Please address the board as a whole.
I'm sorry?
I appreciate that. Please address the board as
It
a
was
whole.
his letter, though, so I know it wasn't yours. And,
I understand.
Okay, so the board, if the words public shaming, then dealt directly with those folks sitting in this audience right now. And that disturbs me as well. I am all for diversity, taught for 35 years in a school that has 60 different languages. This is not a joke, folks. This is a community that is very concerned. They want honesty, they want transparency, they want to be part of the process of DEI. That's what they want. And I don't see this happening. At the school board meeting on August 9th, you directly challenged us to bring those concerns that we had regarding DEI being taught in the classroom to you, and we were supposed to publicly respond to it. I wrote those notes down. So I hope you guys are understanding that when that letter went out, it just didn't go out to a group in Facebook. It went out into the entire community. It caused more divisiveness, more confusion, and more distrust. And that disturbs me. You are all responsible for that letter.
Thank you very much for your comments.
I'm David Meyer. I'm Clarkston Community Schools board candidate, and I live at 10548 Whitby Court in Clarkston. Last August, we were told our students would have an opportunity for in-person learning. 2 weeks before school started, you went back on your word. Since that moment, I have become an advocate for our children's in-person learning, and you have made one thing resoundingly clear: you're not listening. Over the last year, many parents have voiced their concerns over a far-ranging set of issues, from masks, COVID testing, quarantine, CRT, DEI, SEL, or whatever it's called this week, and you have made one thing resoundingly clear: you're not listening. Just recently, despite a year of questions, concerns, meetings, phone calls, and emails, you used your email list to disrespect and publicly shame a group of concerned parents in an email that called for the end of just that behavior. I will waste no more time talking to a group on their lofty posts who choose not to listen to their constituents. Instead, I will address the only ones in the room who will listen. My name is David Meyer, and I'm running for the Clarkston Community School Board. If elected next year, I will do everything I can to make sure all that changes. These are
Thank
Clarkston.
you, Mr. Meyer. You were to address the board, not
I'm
the
addressing
audience. You are not
The-
addressing the board.
these
If
are
you would like
Clarkston
to
Community
address the board,
Schools.
you may continue to address us. Please do not turn around and address the
These
audience.
are Clarkston Community Schools. Our community deserves to be heard. Our community should decide if they want to wear a mask. Our community should decide if they want to attend school in person. Our community should decide. Our community should be heard. I hear you. I will stand with you. I will stand for you.
Thank you.
I'm David Meyer,
Appreciate
Clarkston
it.
candidate for
You're
school
done.
board.
Thank you. Next is Dan. I'm sorry, I cannot. Krug. Thank you, Krug. Sorry about that. And then Keith McGuire after that.
How y'all doing today? My name's Dan Krug. I just moved here on August 28th with my family. We have 3 young kids. My biggest concern
If you
is...
state your address, please, and then you
Oh,
can
I'm
get
sorry.
going.
Huron Parkway in Clarkston.
Thank you.
So my biggest concern is the CRT, critical race theory. I think there's a wrong perspective on what everybody thinks it is. They're using Martin Luther King as a reason why it's a good thing, when in actuality, Martin Luther King was totally opposite of that. Critical race theory is actually blockchain. So in groups, what are we doing right now in the United States of America? We're putting everybody in groups, and that's what CRT does. If you want to follow a leader, Martin Luther King, I suggest that we go individually learn each other, and then we can start developing character. And like you said, Dr. Sean Ryan, you said we're not just creating seniors, right? We want individuals to go out in the world. So therefore, I'm opposed to any kind of CRT. I say we follow Dr. Martin Luther King, and that's it.
All right. Thank you so much for your comments. Keith McGuire and then Brad McEwen. Mr. McGuire? Okay, Brad McEwen?
Hi there, my name is Brad McEwen. I live off Sashabo here in Clarkston. After the last board meeting, Mr. Ryan and Mr. Need took some time to talk to several folks that stuck around after. And I approached, along with Doug Jenkins and Mark Green, I had 2 questions for Mr. Ryan. 1, has anyone been hired as a DEI coordinator in Clarkston? And 2, if so, where, when, and who did their training? Mr. Ryan answered no to the first question. Nobody has been hired as a DEI coordinator. We pointed out that both Dee Smith and Ryan Isley, both teachers in the district, claimed to be exactly that on their LinkedIn page. Then Mr. Ryan backpedaled a bit and said, no, it was really only a stipend kind of thing, like being a coach, but it wasn't really a full-time job. Not exactly transparent nor truthful.
Mr. McEwen, I said at the beginning we weren't going to be calling out individuals.
Second question was about training. And the lead member of this board looked me in the eye and said he hadn't had any training that he knew of.
Mr. McEwen?
Yes.
I said we weren't going to be calling out individuals by name or any other identifiable means. If you have specific concerns about Dr. Ryan, you are happy to email me, but we are not going to have that discussion here in this forum. If those are the crux of your comments, I'm sorry that they're concluded.
It seems weird to hire someone.
No, ma'am, they're concluded.
It seems weird to hire someone for a job that they have no training in.
They are concluded. Thank you very much. They're concluded. Please shut off the microphone. Thank you so much. Thank you. Alex Matisse. Alex Matisse. Alex Matisse. Hi, Mr. Matisse.
I'm Alex. Address is Stone Valley Bluff, Clarkston, Michigan. I'm here to read a statement from my sister, 2012 Clarkston alum. Dear Ryan, members of the board, President Horst, I'm writing you today to voice my unequivocal support of Clarkston's DEI initiatives. When I was a student at Clarkston, frankly, I was unhappy, suffering from mental illness, bullying, and a general sense that I didn't belong, despite my family's strong community presence, made for a difficult adolescence. I found refuge in my teachers that saw that I was different, the teachers that I knew how to acknowledge, understand, and work with my neurodivergent mind. They were equipped and willing to support all students, and we were my saving grace. Today, I'm an educator myself. I'm an award-winning educator, recipient of a Governor's Service Award from Wisconsin's Governor Tony Evers, an award that I credit in large part to my education I received here at Clarkston. But that education would not have been the same had it not been for my teachers' freedom to implement plans that not only supported me as a unique individual, but exposed me to the richness of life beyond Clarkston. Many of my teachers at Clarkston pushed me to understand more deeply the nuances of race and class dynamics, of gender inequity, of justice and rightness the world over. Had it not been for them, my students now in Milwaukee would not have half the teacher they have today. They would not have the teacher they deserve. Do not take away from your future teachers, community members, and leaders the essential and necessary opportunity to expand their worldview. Also, some personal comments. Last time I was in front of this board, I was accepting a Senior Scholar Award in 2017. I didn't really want to see you guys after I graduated, and I'm saddened that I have to be here today to voice support for Clarkston's DEI initiatives. I think it's long overdue. I also didn't get that when I was in Clarkston, and it really stunted my growth because I went to college. And if I could go back, I would have loved to have a DEI education in high school. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Veronica Isaac, and then Desiree Leon. Okay.
Desiree Leon, Clarkston, Michigan. We are really done with the way that the superintendent and the school board has insisted on manipulating the truth. Clarkston Parents United has been parents who have sought out the board through emails, one-on-one meetings, and as a group. Instead of honest transparency, the school board and Sean Ryan have chosen deceit and victimhood. The lies stop here. The curriculum has already been tampered with. The denial of CRT, DEI being in it is refuted. The board is modeling the very lesson we are asking to be kept out of our school training, our school staff training, curriculum, and our children's minds. The name of this lesson is projection. To accuse others of the very things you are doing is a gaslighting tactic and a means to demand false empathy. Projection is specifically used in Marxism, critical race theory, diversity, equity, inclusion, LGBTQIA+, through Title IX 2020 updates, and in social emotional learning, creating a space for that piece of projecting negative emotions through leading assumptions and suggestions. Movies and video subliminal messaging propaganda and thought practices of anticipation leads to a garden of negative habits and actions. This in itself is a wrong practice, and it's in our classrooms for a few years. The worst part, you are preying on minors. Minors. That alone is enough grounds to initiate an immediate recall.
Please. Thank you for your comments. Our last two speakers are Daniel Krug and Zoe Forbes. Please, we've had a very respectful evening. Let's finish on a high note. Thank you.
Oh, it fell off.
As long as we don't break the equipment.
I will not break the equipment.
Seaman has been very gracious to have us in her theater tonight, and we're hoping for a good performance come the winter, right? So.
All right, my name is Daniel Krug. I'm a longtime resident in Clarkston. Been here for over 20 years. Have a business here.
If you just state your address for me, and then I'll hit the buzzer.
Yep, it's I'm in Stonewall Farms, Clarkston, Michigan. I want to address. Well, first, I want to say thank you for all your hard work. I know you guys are trying to do well for the kids, but I am a little bit concerned about a few things, and I want to speak to the part of our Clarkston Community Schools website, which is the student growth and well-being segment of the site. I was kind of shocked. I went on the site today, I looked at the departments, then went to the student growth and well-being. I scrolled down. It's interesting because when I first looked at it, the opening dialogue is actually quite nice. And then it hosts a bunch of different sites that help people, Partnership Against Drug-Free Kids, or for drug-free kids, Not My Kids, Inspiring Positive Growth, Suicide Prevention Hotline. These are all great things. And then it gets down to almost the bottom where you click on It Gets Better project. I'm a little bit concerned about that. I mean, I believe in Jesus Christ. I believe in the fact that we need to love each other. There's no question about that. But when it comes to what I want our kids to be taught from a moral standpoint, that's the parents' job. And I was noticing in the curriculum agenda that when you talked about inclusion, what was conspicuously absent were the parents. You know, you talked about family, but you know what? In the grand scheme of things, everybody in the earth is on the family. I'm talking about the parental family and the kids. Morally, I just don't believe what we're promoting to the kids is really going to help them long term and make them healthy. Let the parents be the moral guides of the kids and take that promotion off the website. Thank you.
Thank you so much for your comment. And finally tonight, we have Zoe Forbes.
My name is Zoe Forbes, and my address is 6984 Woodland Court. I'm actually a senior at Clarkston High School. I'd like to address the board about our teachers. The teachers of Clarkston School District are hardworking and kind individuals who have put their lives into helping the younger generation grow and become the foundation of the future. And might I add, in fact, I do not feel preyed on, but loved and supported with all times and moments of my being in Clarkston. With the criticism and hateful messages being directed at our district's teacher, it breaks my heart thinking about how they must feel dealing with the pressures of COVID, these crazy years we've felt, and now this. I will refer back to the idea of creating a safe and successful environment for all the students, as talked about in the strategic plan. I also want to add there is no hidden agenda. The agenda is clear and written out for people like me. I'm trans non-binary, and I use they, them pronouns. I also identify as gay, meaning I'm attracted to women and other non-binary folks. Self-discovery helps me feel better in my own skin and have the mental health to be where I am in my academics. Without the support of my teachers and the support of the staff at CCS, I don't know where I would be right now, and I don't know if I'd be able to be standing here talking to you right now. Being able to see this representation and knowing that I'm safe and validated and other students like me are safe and validated is crucial to having a successful community. Pride isn't political, and flying pride flags in classrooms shouldn't be deemed as a political act, nor should teachers be punished for it. And no one is being excluded through the push for inclusion. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Zoe, for your comments. We certainly appreciate all the citizens who came here tonight to attend the meeting, appreciate the change of venue and everyone who spoke to us tonight and shared their views. We'll move on to information items. Our next board meeting is scheduled for Monday, October 11th at 7 p.m. I don't know yet where we'll be. Let's just stay tuned and we'll make that announcement. Item 11 is adjournment. May I have a motion, please?
I move to adjourn.
Support. All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? We are adjourned. Thank you.